I was the maid of honor to a bridezilla. She made everyone's life hell but then paid the price. I was a bridesmaid to my ex's sister. So before I truly get into it, I need to explain my ex's sister. She's a pathological liar whose tales include being the official makeup artist for Skrillex when she was 13. She didn't know how to do makeup until she was 27, when I taught her. She claims to have slept with Tom Cowlitz of Tokyo Hotel when she was 15 and that Bill Cowlitz gave her his number but she lost it. And on a way darker note, when a guy from high school turned her down, she tried to tell everyone that he had a disease. When another dude turned her down after hooking up with her, she lied about rope. She constantly lies about having bipolar disorder to justify behavior and piggybacks off of other people's problems to gain sympathy. For example, at one point she discovered I had very recently lost a baby. She then, instead of consoling me, told me about her own miscarriage, that became a termination within 20 minutes of finding out I had to medically terminate, for 2 hours in graphic detail. The details changed often. She also believes she is a professional singer and has tried out for The Voice several times, and was rejected each time. She also is absolutely convinced every man wants her, so she's always trying to play weird mind games with dudes. Her husband 100% supports everything she does, and she is absolutely controlling over him to the point where if any girl talks to him she will insert herself into the conversation. We'll call them Shannon and Mark. His sister, the bride, and her fiancé had been engaged for nearly 4 years, and together overall for 8. They saved up basically nothing. All they did was joint host a karaoke night once a week. They lived rent-free in his parents' garage, and both sets of parents paid for whatever they wanted. Neither of them wanted to find better work. When Shannon asked me to be her maid of honor, this is exactly what she told me. I technically already asked Haley to be my maid of honor, but she hasn't been involved with any of the planning and we've been fighting. So Haley will still be the maid of honor, but you'll help me plan. You're really good at it. I agreed because whatever, at the time I was dating her brother. I wanted to be supportive. So we have less than a month to plan as they decided to begin wedding preparations 3 weeks until the wedding. They decide they want to have the wedding in her parents' backyard, so building commences. My ex, his father, the groom's brother, his best man, and at times myself are all building the arches, painting things, helping set up the walkway and platform, hanging lights and strands of rose petals. The bride, the groom, and her mom all stay in the bedroom getting baked on brownies and planning. During this entire time, if we weren't moving fast enough, Shannon would start throwing fits and yelling at people and crying, saying we were ruining her wedding. During this planning, Shannon pulls me aside and accuses me of trying to F her husband and saying I'd been in love with him for years. She said this while on cloud 9, by the way. Mid-accusation, she forgot what she was talking about and I had to remind this beach what she was accusing me of. Either way, this is incredibly far from the truth, as I had found him revolting and insufferably annoying. About a week and a half before the wedding, Shannon tells me I need to put together a group chat between her, myself, Haley, the actual maid of honor, and Deanna, her future brother-in-law's girlfriend, that Shannon actually thought was low-class and ghetto and hated, and organize a shopping day to get bridesmaids' dresses. Haley never even bothers responding and Deanna says she'll be there. Shannon rolls her eyes and says she doubts it. The day of, Shannon picks me up at 7 a.m. so we can get Starbucks and girl talk and get ready for the others at her parents' house. And no one showed up. Haley was absolutely unreachable. And lived across the street from Shannon's parents, so we knew she was home. Shannon went and banged on Haley's front door for 10 minutes to no avail, and Deanna didn't show up at all. Shannon was crushed. I felt terrible and we went to the mall. Shannon kept insisting her shade was Dusty Rose without ever choosing to elaborate on what that meant and threw a hissy fit whenever I brought out anything she didn't like. At one point she pulled out a bridesmaid bouquet that she made and started shoving it up to random dresses. I pulled out this maxi dress and it matched. She was over the moon. I asked for the dress in 2 other sizes, and it was the last they had in stock. It wasn't on the website because it was on clearance and out of season. Normal people would accept defeat but not Shannon. No, Shannon had me call every Windsor within 60 miles to find this dress for Haley and Deanna. And then had me drive with her to go get them. I had to drive 47 miles to get a damn dress and sit through an awkward lunch with Shannon's grandma who loathes me and purposely called me by the wrong name to get on my nerves. The kicker was I couldn't afford my $30 dress because I had just paid a bunch of bills. Shannon offered to pay, and then immediately afterward handed me the receipt and told me I owed her everything including tax and gas money for picking me up. Which she had also offered to do. This becomes a theme because the next day she had us all meet up to buy shoes. Haley and Deanna make it this time, and Shannon knew I was still broke so she covered the $20 shoes, handed me the receipt, and told me to pay her back. Then she dragged me to a beauty supply store so she could buy hair extensions. She wanted 18-inch hair extensions and she wanted them to increase volume on her very damaged, slightly melted platinum blonde hair that she had been bleaching by herself for 3 years. She fancied herself a hair stylist because of Google. I went to school for it and she would constantly deride and berate me when I'd offer her tips, and then regurgitate them back to me later as if she'd always known. She argued with me about prices, bought cheap hair, and then handed me the stack to sew into clip-ins for her. And then tells me she's taking it to a professional stylist to have them color treated to match her effed up hair. She did not offer me any sort of payment for this service, considered it a favor to the bride, and then told me I still owed her for the shoes and dress because she had to spend $90 of her own money on her extensions. At this point I know you guys might be thinking, wait, you said so yourself, she only worked one night a week. Yes she did. But his parents, and her parents, paid for the entire wedding. Literally everything. They didn't invest a dime. She also took in enough in one night that I made in a week. She had the money. She's the kind of person who will divide the cost of a pack of cigarettes by the amount of cigarettes in the pack and then Venmo you the cost per cig you bum off her, even if she smoked half of yours the day before. All this happened before the actual wedding or even the bachelorette party, which was a disaster. I was the maid of honor to a bridezilla. She made everyone's life hell but then paid the price. 3 days later was the bachelorette party. Haley, the actual maid of honor, planned this one but Shannon, the bridezilla, had me plan the backup. This is the first time Haley or Deanna, girlfriend of bridezilla's future brother-in-law, showed up for anything other than the shoe shopping. We went to a local Mexican place, and then drove 45 minutes away to meet up with Shannon's karaoke mentor, and the dude he was cheating on his wife with to attend their karaoke night. It's a dive bar where no one is under the age of 45 and everyone looks like SpongeBob without water. Shannon is wearing a hot pink feather boa and a crown of pink peepees, waltzes up to the mic and hijacks the list to sing show tunes. The song before her was a Johnny Cash song, to give some insight on how out of place we were. Some dude starts hitting on us, first Haley, then Deanna, and then he sees me and completely drops his attention from our entire group to make me his sole target of unwanted affection. This ticks off Shannon, who isn't being paid attention to, enough to where she furnished a PP confetti gun, puts it right next to the dude's ear, and then fires while screaming peepees at the top of her lungs. Then she decides that she's over it and isn't having fun because no one bought her drinks and no one congratulated her on her songs. So she made us all get back into the car, drive back to our city, and crash Mark's, her fiancé's, bachelor party to see what he was up to. At this point, Deanna disappears entirely and runs off with Mark's brother. Mark, like an idiot, had eaten a grass brownie and was borderline catatonic at an arcade. My ex-boyfriend, who was forced by Shannon to attend the bachelor party for Mark even though he had been building at all hours of the day save for sleeping and going to work, was nowhere to be found. He had bailed at 9 p.m., it was midnight, and she demands I call him to discern his whereabouts. I did, he was asleep, and because I was the DD for Shannon he says he wouldn't come get me. She throws a fit and takes him home, and thus ends the bachelorette party. The rehearsal dinner comes around and lo and behold, the bridesmaids and groomsmen all make it for once. We're all in her parents' backyard. And we go through the rehearsal while chomping down pizza. Not too bad, the wedding seems like it's gonna go well. Now here's the wedding. First off, no one showed up except all of her grandparents, his parents, one of her cousins, my ex's best friend, her uncle and his girlfriend to take photos, and Mark's aunt. Her aunt and uncle straight up told her they weren't going to miss seeing the Browns game for her wedding. Imagine your wedding being so awful that people aren't willing to miss the Browns game. The effing Browns. She also didn't bother to check the weather report, and it was windy. To the point where table settings were being blown away and the decorations were precariously swinging back and forth. Nevertheless, Shannon persisted. She made me do everyone's makeup, at no compensation, even though I usually charge a fee, and also had me help set up the decor in the backyard. One of the centerpieces we had made ended up being knocked over by the wind and she had a full-scale meltdown. Screaming, crying, throwing a tantrum, demanding her brother gets her a new vase, the whole shebang. Her mom tells her to calm down and tells my ex not to get the vase, and Shannon blows up. About this time I've had enough of her and within an hour before the ceremony had single-handedly finished off a bottle of cheap champagne from Kroger and I was feeling pretty good about the wedding. My ex bought her a vase, she starts screaming at us about how we need to get into our places and we need to be on cue. She eyes me in particular and tells me I need to mind my steps because she can't have me rolling my ankle and ruining her wedding. This has nothing to do with the drinks I'd had. I have a weak right ankle that frequently rolls or buckles under me if I'm in heels or putting too much pressure on it. I ended up almost waddling to my spot and, when Shannon wasn't looking, took off my shoes, putting them on again just for photos, and then taking them off. And then there's speeches. There's like 10 people at this wedding, everyone made a speech. Shannon had me draft a speech in advance, corrected and proofread it, and would only let me read the speech she approved of. And then had me read it last because Mark's brother made everyone super uncomfortable by flashing his PP to everyone during his speech, but by then everyone was noticeably not interested and just wanted to eat and hang out. I didn't blame them at all, rushed through my speech, and grabbed food. They tried to make all the guests sing karaoke, no one wanted to, so Shannon got mad. At the end of the night, they tipped their caterers in grass and left. A few months later Shannon's newlywed husband got really cross-faded and hospitalized her during one of their karaoke nights. They were no longer the hosts and split up pretty shortly after.